A major issue has come up due to Assistant Secretary Mocha Uson's request to have Rappler reclassified as social media pursuant to pursuant to the MPC's own description of what constitutes mainstream media or what constitutes a member of the MPC. The issue rotates primarily on whether or not Rappler is considered a news organization. This is its defense. According to Assistant Secretary Mocha Uson, pursuant to the MPC's own rules, if the the organization that seeks to be covering Malacañang under Malacañang Press Corps, it must have a broadcast arm or a publication. If not, then it must be a news organization with the reporters and correspondents. In the meantime, however, ASEC Mocha has been attacked for attempting to restrict the freedom of speech. However, she has answered back that there is no such restriction but a mere reclassification, which brings to rise a whole different issue. And what is the issue here? The issue primarily lies on, is reclassification a restriction? And if it is a restriction, who is oppressing whom? Assuming that reclassification will transfer Rappler to the jurisdiction of the Office of Social Media, which is administered by ASEC Mocha. What is going to happen is that it will also fall under the rules on accreditation, which are the interim rules on accreditation of the Office of Social Media. Accreditation is usually on a per event basis, and each event will subject the person who wants to cover it to the same rules, but the rules are the requirements are very low. You only need 1,000 followers, must have an established social media presence, etc. So there is no question that Rappler will be able to comply with the requisites of accreditation under the social media office. But why is this a problem for apparently the traditional media is weighing in? So why does this seem to be a problem for them? According to the practitioners in traditional media, some reporters have posted their opinions online, and as well as some journalists. From what they understand is that reclassification is a form of repression or oppression of the freedom of the press, which is of course incorrect. The constitutional provision states, rather simply, that no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, and of the press. No law shall be passed. Okay. The reclassification by ASEC Mocha, the request for reclassification by ASEC Mocha, first of all, is not a law. It is not even a rule. It is merely recognition of the platform that is being used by Rappler to conform with the standards that are set, with the rules that are set within the PCOO. The MPC has its own rules for accrediting its own members, and the PCOO Social Media Office has its own rules for accrediting social media practitioners. And both intentions are to cover Malacañang. Is there a right to cover Malacañang? There isn't any, because what the Constitution prescribes is freedom of speech, of expression, and of the press. And what are the characteristics of these? The characteristics of these is expression. Actually, redundant nga eh. In the minutes of the constitutional discussions, on the discussions on the Constitution for this provision, actually a single one of them would have sufficed. Freedom of speech would have covered freedom of the press. Freedom of expression would have covered freedom of speech and of the press. Freedom of the press is actually freedom of speech. And so our constitutional provision is actually redundant. But what is it protecting? It is protecting an utterance. It is protecting speech. What you write, what you say, what you broadcast. what you post on your Facebook. That is freedom of speech. That is freedom of the press when you publish it. That is freedom of expression. Does not cover access to information, which is a totally different constitutional provision by itself. The constitutional provision reads, oops, wala ko yung ano ko. According to the Constitution itself, let me just get that so I'll state it. Access to information should be guaranteed. So that is actually what is being fought here. Not the freedom to express yourself, not the freedom to write, and not the freedom to broadcast, but the freedom to access the information that Malacañang provides. So, what does it say? It says that the right of the people to information on matters of public concern shall be recognized. So, right of the people to information on matters of public concern. Okay, it means that in addition to which the Constitution says access to official records, to documents and papers pertaining to official acts, transactions, or decisions, as well as to government research data used as a basis for policy development shall be afforded the citizen, subject to such limitations as may be provided by law. What does this mean? Is accessing the president a right? No. What is a right is the access to official records and to documents and papers pertaining to official acts, transactions, or decisions. Access to the president is not a right. Access to Malacañang and coverage of Malacañang events is not a right. These things are privileges, and both social media and traditional media are supposed to be on equal footing by now because of the recognition of new media. In fact, we have a new undersecretary in PCOO, Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy, who is the undersecretary for new media. This is the way of government, of the executive, recognizing the various forms wherein the freedom of expression, of speech, and of the press can be exercised. Okay, so this should be clear. The concerns arising about supposedly the oppression of the freedom of speech is misplaced. What is very clear here is that the right is to the... Ayan. Okay, so we're back. Sorry. So we're back. Again, we will reiterate. What is being fought here is not the freedom of speech, not the freedom of expression, and not the freedom of the press. What is very clear here is that all of these have been guaranteed because no law has been passed abridging the freedom of anybody to write, to broadcast, or to post their opinions on Facebook. Okay? So nobody is being prevented from expressing themselves, least of all, any member of the media. So the president also does not. Okay, so clearly we are being distracted. We are being distracted because there are some people who think that there is a vested, who think that the coverage of Malacañang, they have placed an inordinate value on the coverage of Malacañang. They have placed a value on it so that now it becomes something that they feel that they have to fight for. It is not necessary. The recognition of various forms of expression or various forms of delivering information to the public is a reality we can no longer revise. It is a reality we can no longer go back to. So, what we need to do is recognize the participation of new media in delivering information to the public. We will reiterate, there is no, or there ought to be no monopoly on who delivers information to the public because even the government has this obligation. And as a matter of fact, in undertaking the obligation to deliver information to the public, the government can recognize the various forms of media that can deliver that information. Okay? So, in the end, what it amounts to is this little piece of real estate we call Malacañang and the ability to occupy that space in order to cover issues of national concern. uh,